Hi, my name's Tom Wooley. I'm a keyboard and technology sales specialist here at Alto Music, and this is my gear story. This is a MiniMoog Model-D. This is not an original, I guess, or vintage, I would say, I guess. This is a reissue that came out, I guess, about 5 years ago when I got it. Always wanted one of these when I was a kid, but the used market for these got to the point where it was just too pricey. Not to mention, as much as I love vintage synthesizers, they're tough to maintain, usually pricey to maintain. So I always kind of prefer analog synths with new components that I don't have to worry about. So when Moog announced that they were reissuing this and basically down to the original components wherever possible, I jumped at the chance to get one, and folks at Moog were nice enough to sell it directly to me, so at a price I could afford. Thank you, Moog. And I've had it for about 5 years, I guess, now. And it's a great instrument. As I said, wanted one since I was a kid. When I was little, I'd hear these sounds on television or on the radio. It didn't sound like any instrument I knew of, and I didn't know what made those sounds, but I knew I really liked them. As time went on, I discovered it was a thing called a synthesizer that made these sounds. I was always fascinated by them. And then as I grew older, the music that I listened to, all the artists that I really loved, they were all using Moog synthesizers. So I guess the artist that I admired the most growing up was Keith Emerson. He on stage would have, he'd have this massive modular Moog, but on the other side, he'd have one of these guys, a MiniMoog. And just the sounds that he made were, it just inspired me. And then of course I grew up listening to all the other guys like Jan Hammer, who was massively talented on the MiniMoog, which made it so expressive. And he was a guy, these were guys, I didn't grow up listening to Elton John or Billy Joel, guys like that. Unless it had electricity running through it, I wasn't so interested. Guys who were playing a MiniMoog, it kind of gave the keyboardists of that era the ability to stand up to all the rock gods of that period. And this was the one. This is really kind of probably the most, I guess, iconic and most famous synthesizer there probably is, at least amongst them. Was one of the first that was commercially available and I guess affordable, even though it was the equivalent to buying a car back in the 70s, but it was at least, I guess, somewhat affordable for musicians at that time. It was essentially a massively scaled down version of their modular systems, which you almost needed a PhD, I guess, to operate. And this brought it down to simplest terms, basically, where it's just a small number of modules and a small number of knobs and no patching necessary. And it's almost, you almost can't make a bad sound with this. No matter how you set the dial, something cool is going to come out of it. Again, this is Tom Wooley from Alto Music, the keyboard and technology sales specialist. And this is my gear story, and I'm sticking to it.